Tonight we are going to learn all about my top tips for applying kinesiotape to your hands, ways to make it stick better, best practices for knowing what to look for when it comes to looking for a tape. But before we even do all of that, let me introduce myself in case we haven't met before. Hey, my name's Corinne. I'm an occupational therapist and I specialize in helping those with chronic hand pain decrease their pain and improve their ability to do what they love most. Whether you want to know all the best gadgets to immediately do your favorite activities better, understand your hand splint and support options, or you're curious about the best hand exercises that you should be doing to gain more strength and mobility, it is my job to help you do all of these things without having to spend a ton of money or waste a bunch of your time on things that just don't work. So let's get started. Here are a few reasons why I absolutely love kinesiotape, not only for my clients, but actually for myself as well. It's fully customizable, so you can really target a single joint or specific joints to meet your own needs. And if you just have a splint that's not as customizable, with tape, you can really truly target certain joints and areas of your body. The second reason why I love kinesiotape is that it's super low profile. So it's not this big, bulky splint that's in the way, getting in the way of activities. It actually just truly supports your hand through the activity, but still gives you enough mobility to literally do the activities that you want to do, just with decreased pain. I also love it because once you put it on, it stays on. So I'm somebody where if the splint is not near me or right in front of me, then I probably am not going to use it or bother looking for it. With kinesiotape, you put it on once, it lasts typically 3 to 5 days, and then you take it off. So you don't have to think about putting it on or taking it off for certain activities. It's just always there to support you. You can always put a splint on over top of that, but that level of support from the tape is always there. And then lastly, it is water resistant, which means that you can wash your hands, wash the dishes, take a shower without taking it off. Getting into my best tips or practices for applying kinesiotape to yourself. You first want to make sure that you are choosing the right tape for yourself. Let me grab my tape. So I really prefer a roll of tape, and this is a huge roll. This is a really, really big roll because I use it for my mobile clinic. They also sell like much cheaper, smaller rolls, especially if you're just starting to try certain tapes out. You'll probably want to start with a smaller roll until you find like your favorite. So they sell rolls of tape as well as pre-cut pieces of tape. The pre-cut pieces of tape that I've seen tend to come like about yay long, so they're not quite as customizable. And especially for the thumb wrap that I'm actually going to be demonstrating tonight, the thumb kinesiotape application, you need a longer strip than what is typically pre-cut. So I tend to like the roll of tape rather than the pre-cut. I also like the 2-inch roll. So this is a 2-inch width, and I find that for the hands and the wrists and forearms, this tends to be what I need. They come in wider and narrower lengths, but I love my 2-inch roll of kinesiotape. Also, you can look for like sensitive skin tape. So people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome tend to have more sensitive skin or fragile skin that can tear easily, or even like if you have like a history of allergic reaction also to adhesives, then you might need to look for like sensitive skin tape, a brand that advertise, hey, like our tape does not, interfere with your sensitive skin. They also make tape like that's extra adherent. So if tape tends to really easily fall off of your hand, then you might look for extra adherent tape. There's athletic tape, which tends to be more water resistant. So there's truly a lot of different features of the tape. You can probably hear my dog walking in here. I don't think she's gonna actually say hi though. She's a little shy. Oh, hi, Riley. Hi, baby. There she is. Okay. But yeah, there's definitely look for like all the different features of tape. And then you can try them out with like smaller rolls to figure out like what is right for your hands. So you want to also prep your tape. So when we're thinking about prepping our tape, you want to make sure that you're cutting it to the length that is right for what you're doing. I'm going to show you my favorite tutorial for putting kinesiotape on my thumb and supporting my thumb joints. So I'm gonna support this CMC joint down here as well as my MCP joint. And this is my favorite tape application for anyone with like basal joint arthritis down here, or just like generalized thumb arthritis, generalized thumb pain, as well as hypermobility. And even it can feel good for people with like de Quervain's tenosynovitis or mommy thumb, which is like a tendonitis right here. So for this ultra supportive one, I actually need to cut a piece that's quite long. And so you'll get in the hang of like knowing about how long you need to measure it, but it's probably going to take a few trials for you to actually figure out what works for you. So for me, I know that it's like roughly the length of my forearm that I need to measure it, and then I'm going to cut a piece like that. So I've cut my piece. And then you also want to make sure when you cut it that you round the edges, because a square edge on your skin comes off way more easy. I also want to point out to you my ergonomic scissors. So it basically like takes your thumb out of the picture as you cut. So I'm going to round my edges. And now for this application, I actually cut lengthwise down here, so I don't really need to round this edge just yet. I'll round those little edges once I cut it lengthwise. So I'm cutting it lengthwise. For this application, I'm going to leave 1 inch to 2 inches at the top as like my base. And then I have these two here. So anytime you're cutting your tape, you're going to just want to make sure that you're rounding your edges, especially if you have a roll of tape. If you don't have a roll, if it's pre-cut, then the edges should be rounded. And then at this point, you're gonna also wanna wash your hands to make sure that any lotions that you have are off, because if you have any lotions on your hands, it won't stick very well. And then another way to ensure that you're getting the most use out of your kinesiotape is to actually apply rubbing alcohol to the area. So I'm gonna pretend like I have rubbing alcohol, and I would probably apply it here as well as like all the way around my thumb. Do as I say, not as I do. I don't have rubbing alcohol with me tonight, but that is what you should do if you want like the most wear time out of it. So then whenever you're applying tape, you want to start with a base. So you don't want to start the tape on a stretch. You're going to want to have a base that is not stretched at all. So for this tutorial, my base is going to be down here. Let's say you're applying tape to the back of your forearm or something to support your wrist. Your base could be here or here, but wherever your tape starts and stops, or in this case, it's gonna start here and stop here and here, you don't want it to be on a stretch. If it ends on a stretch, it can irritate your skin, or if it starts on a stretch, it can irritate your skin more, and it also just doesn't stick quite as well. So then you peel off this back like this, and you're gonna try not to touch the tape. I know it's hard, especially when you're first starting, and it's okay if your fingertips do touch the tape. You're gonna see mine touch the tape tonight as well, and I've been doing this for years. But the more that you do it, the easier it's gonna get. So you can see I have my base right here. Not on a stretch, I just placed it down. So when I say stretch, if you're not familiar with kinesiotape can stretch. This is no stretch. This is like 100% stretch. I never recommend doing 100% stretch because it really does lead to irritation and can have a really hard time coming off. And you can play around with, like, I would say when you're targeting the joint, you're gonna wanna put some stretch on it just so that it feels supported. But maybe start on the lower end, like maybe start with 25% stretch. If this is 0, this might be 25% stretch. We've got 50, 75, and then 100. So, I would say anywhere between the 25 to 75% range of stretch could be beneficial for you. So I'm gonna do about 25% stretch. And so for this wrap, I'm gonna wrap it multiple times around my thumb, and I'm going to, what I love about tape is that you can customize it. So I'm going to maybe start higher up here and then try to cross a little bit lower after that to make sure that my entire thumb has support. So you can see I'm pulling it and I'm peeling it and I'm holding here, not on the adhesive part itself. So I'm pulling it about 25% as I wrap. So I'm up a little bit higher, then I'm gonna come down a little bit lower, then I might come higher again. Okay, so I wrapped it about 3 times. I like anywhere from 2 to 3 times. And then when you place it, like place the anchor part on your hand, again, you don't want to end on a stretch, and I regret that this is not a little bit longer here tonight. So my preference is that it's a little bit longer and actually comes down to here. But that's okay. I just find that it does tend to come up easier if it lands there. And then I shouldn't have touched it, but that's okay. I make mistakes too. Make sure that it lands without a stretch on. And then that is the first wrap. So the second one is going to be the same thing, just wrapped around this way. And welcome, guys. If you have any questions, just make sure you drop them in the comments and I'll try to get to them at the end. All right, so we're going to do, again, like a 25% stretch or so. And you can also play around with like your thumb position, or if you're doing this for your wrist, like trying to support your wrist, you can play around. I like to like bend the joint that I am applying the tape to. Like for my wrist, I like to bend it this way and then apply it this way. And that way it just feels nice and supportive, and it actually lifts the skin up with it. All right, so for the thumb, I tend to like a more like neutral position. Like if I were to just touch those fingertips together and then let go, I like my thumb that way. But again, you can play around with how it feels to you. All right, so I'm doing about 25% stretch, and I'm gonna vary between higher and lower. And I think I would go a third time around, but I think in order to make sure that it lands on my skin and not on the tape, I'm going to just do this. So you want it to land on your skin and not the tape, because let's say this landed on my tape here. It would come off so much easier than when it lands on my skin with like a 0% stretch. So again, you don't want the ends of your tape to ever land on top of tape. You want it to always land on your skin. And then to heat activate it, so this kinesiotape adhesive is activated by heat. Rubbing it in is usually all that people need, and you can see that is already coming up. So you can try to rub it in the direction that it's parallel to. Just give it a good rub all over. All right. So we're going to come back over this way. So because kinesiotape is heat activated, if you have sensitive skin especially, or you're nervous about how hard it's going to be to come off of your skin, then you want to be really mindful of anytime you are exposing your kinesiotape like hand to heat. So if you like to wind down at the end of the day with heat on your hand, which I do recommend for people that have hand pain at night, and if heat feels good, you probably want to avoid, and you can again kind of play around with this, but if you do have super sensitive skin and you don't want trouble getting it off, you might need to avoid putting like a lot of high heat on your hand while it's on. So it's just something to keep in mind because it is heat activated. So removal tips. The longer that it's on, the more difficult that it is to get off of your skin. So if it's been on for, again, you can wear it for, it says 3 to 5 days. With the hands, that can be a little bit trickier to achieve just because you're washing your hands a lot. You might be using hand sanitizer. Your hands might be getting sweaty under medical gloves. My tape typically stays on for like 2 days. And it can get kind of like grimy by the end of those 2 days, like a little smelly. But the longer it's on, the harder it is to get off. So some removal tips for kinesiotape on your hand. You can try to remove it in the shower. So having water on it can be helpful. If you rub conditioner or soap into the tape and then try to gently peel it away, that works. That can work as well. I also really love coconut oil, so I'd like douse this whole thing in coconut oil and then let it like soak in for a few minutes, and then it just should gently peel away. When you do take it off, do not pull and yank. That will hurt. What you're going to want to do is once if you're taking it off with oil or conditioner or something, or even if you're not, you're going to want to just gently roll it away. So see how I'm rolling it, and it's coming off easy because it hasn't been on but for a minute. But gently roll like that. So you want it to like come off parallel to your skin and not like that perpendicular rip. If you are wearing this and you're noticing that your edges are like rolling or coming up, you can always like trim away the part that is coming up, like the edge that's peeling off, and then that will help it to last longer for you. So again, sensitive skin or skin allergies, you're going to want to just be kind of cautious about what type of tape that you are applying. I also recommend, if you're new to tape at all, even if you don't think you have sensitive skin or skin allergies, and especially if you know that you do have sensitive skin or skin allergies, you're going to want to trial a small amount of tape in the area that you're applying it. So I could just put like, I don't know, like this much cut of a tape like right here, and maybe one like right here, and then just like leave it on for at least 15 minutes or so, and before you apply the whole thing to your thumb or whatever area you're taping, to try to look and like notice to see if your skin has any sort of reaction to it. You're going to be looking for redness around the area, or if it's starting to feel like itchy or burning, that is a sign that you should not apply the tape to your entire area, and then possibly look for a different brand of tape. So again, if you're noticing any irritation with that small application, or once you've put it on, if you're starting to see like any redness like around, or if it's starting to really itch, then immediately remove it. Coconut oil is a great way to remove it, and look for a different brand, especially one that is sensitive skin options. That's it. Thanks so much for watching, and make sure you hit that subscribe button if you found this video helpful so that you can see more videos just like this one.